Welcome to the CFO Strategy Briefing Series, where senior leaders explore the practical implications of third wave strategy for contemporary finance and governance. Third wave strategy describes a systems-based approach to strategy practice developed in my books, Corporate Strategy Remastered Volumes 1 and 2. It comprises 4 primary elements. In this briefing, we focus on the first and foundational element, Systemic Cognitive Strategy Practice, SCSP, and how it works alongside generative AI. My name is Paul Hunter. I appreciate you taking the time to join me. This episode, titled How CFOs Can Think Across Past, Present and Future, is the first of a 3-part series. In this one, we establish the cognitive foundations. In the next one, we examine bias, noise, and cybernetic discipline. And in the third one, we turn to uncertainty, scenarios, and board communication. The aim of this episode is straightforward. It's to give you a practical mental model for how you, as CFO, can think across past, present, and future in a structured way, and how generative AI can support that work without taking it over. CFOs operate under a distinctive set of cognitive demands. You are explaining last quarter's results while updating guidance for the year, forming a view on the next 3 to 5 years, and considering longer-term questions around capital, decarbonisation, technology, and talent. At the same time, the board expects you to speak clearly about risk and resilience in an environment that is volatile and often opaque. Traditional sequential approaches to analysis, that's looking back, then assessing the present, then contemplating the future, struggle to keep pace with this reality. They encourage fragmented conversations and can leave the organisation reacting to events instead of shaping them. Rather than treating reflection, analysis and foresight as separate steps, SCSP supports concurrent thinking within a clear structure. In a well-run strategy session, a CFO can review operational and financial data, consider several plausible future states, and draw on lessons from previous initiatives, all in the same conversation, without it becoming unfocused. The point is not to add complexity for its own sake. It is to organise the complexity that already exists so that the quality of judgment improves and the organisation can act with greater confidence. At the core of SCSP are 3 interlocking loops of thinking. They are prospection, inspection, and retrospection. They form a continuous cycle rather than a checklist. Let's look at each one, starting with prospection. That's the capacity to imagine possible futures informed by experience and evidence. For a CFO, this includes scenario analysis, asking how different combinations of interest rates, regulatory outcomes, technological change or competitive behaviour might affect cash flows, capital structure or valuation. Prospection is not about predicting one correct outcome. It is about preparing the organisation for a range of plausible conditions and identifying where options are valuable. Next is inspection. It focuses on the present. It is the disciplined observation and analysis of what is actually happening now. That's within the business and in its external environment. Inside out, outside in. This includes financial and operational performance from ERP and BI systems, but also qualitative intelligence, customer feedback, supply chain signals, regulatory developments, and macroeconomic indicators. Inspection extends the traditional strengths of the finance function beyond reporting toward real-time strategic sensing. Third is retrospection. It's structured learning from the past. It looks at recent decisions and initiatives and asks, what did we assume? What actually occurred? And what does that tell us? Which forecasts or business cases were accurate, which were not, and why? Retrospection is not about revisiting accountability. It is primarily concerned with improving the quality of future judgments. These loops are interdependent too. Prospection influences which signals you pay attention to today. Inspection provides the evidence against which past assumptions are tested, and retrospection feeds back into scenario design and risk appetite. In practice, they are often all present in a single CFO conversation. SCSP's value is that it names them and makes them explicit, so they can be managed deliberately. It's hard to have a discussion today, however, without considering the contribution of generative AI as a cognitive support, but not a replacement. It is, I think, the place where generative and agentic AI become relevant. The current wave of AI tools can automate parts of inspection and retrospection and assist prospection, but they do not substitute for the CFO's judgment. Such a critical point. On the inspection side, generative AI can summarize large volumes of data and narrative information. They include management reports, analyst commentary, customer feedback, and so on. It can highlight patterns, anomalies, and emerging themes that warrant closer human attention. Agentic AI, as systems that can take limited autonomous actions, can monitor defined indicators and prompt review when thresholds are crossed. For retrospection, AI can help compare planned versus actual outcomes across multiple projects, identify recurring patterns and variances, and surface which assumptions tend to be reliable and which do not. This gives retrospection an empirical base rather than relying on selective memory. On prospection, generative models can create first draft narratives and numbers for alternative scenarios. Examples of appropriate prompts that can be generated include generate 3 demand trajectories under different regulatory settings. Another, outline risks and opportunities if competitor consolidation accelerates. These prompts are not answers, they are inputs that make it easier to explore a wider opportunity and risk space. The crucial point is that AI sits inside the SCSP loops as an enabler. It reduces the manual burden of data gathering and first-pass analysis. It expands the range of futures you can explore in a given time, and it helps make implicit assumptions explicit. I'd also add to that it provides an auditable or at least a plausible backdrop against which decisions can be justified. What it does not do is decide which scenarios matter, how they should be weighted, or what the organisation's appetite for risk and investment should be. Those remain leadership responsibilities, and in particular, responsibilities of the CFO as steward of financial integrity and strategic viability. SCSP also clarifies where thinking happens and over what horizon, and there are 3 dimensions and 4 strategic lenses associated with that responsibility. We'll look at those now. With regard to dimensions, we've identified 3. They are 1, individual thinking, 2, group thinking, 3, systems thinking. Let's take individual thinking first. That is your own cognitive agility as CFO. It's the ability to move between detail and the big picture, to hold apparently conflicting objectives, and to revise mental models as conditions change. Second is group thinking. That's how finance teams, executive committee and boards explore issues together. The quality of dialogue, the degree of challenge and psychological safety, and the discipline within which evidence and alternatives are considered. Third is systems thinking, and that's the way the organisation is viewed as an interconnected whole, understanding how decisions in one part of the system influence others over time. So alongside these dimensions, SCSP also uses 4 strategic lenses to structure discussions. First, long-term architecture. Second, medium-term planning. Third, short-term action and learning. And then alignment and governance. The long-term architecture lens typically asks what enduring capabilities, technologies and relationships the organisation must build to remain relevant and investable. Medium-term planning, say 3 to 5 years, focuses on growth platforms, major capital programs and business model shifts. Short-term action and learning, which we're really talking about monthly or quarterly, sometimes immediately, concentrates on experiments, pilots, and tactical adjustments. And finally, alignment and governance tests whether near-term actions and medium-term plans are coherent with the long-term architecture and within agreed risk parameters. You can see now systemic cognitive strategy practice operating as a system. For CFOs, these dimensions and lenses provide a simple way to organise conversations. Examples: when reviewing a proposal, you can ask, which loop are we in? Are we mainly inspecting, prospecting, or reflecting? Similarly, you can then ask, which lens are we using? Are we considering only the next 12 months, or also the implications for our architecture 5 years from now? And finally, whose perspective is missing, individual, group, or systems? This moves strategy discussions from being ad hoc and personality-driven to being more structured and repeatable without losing the flexibility required in uncertain environments. All well and good, let's look at then practical moves for CFOs to take to get things started. A few practical starting points you can apply in your own context are as follows. 1. Label the loops in your next paper or discussion. When presenting to the board, separate clearly what we have learned, that's retrospection, what we know about the current situation, that's inspection, and what this implies for futures and options, that's prospection. Introduce at least 2 scenarios by default. Rather than a single base case, present a main scenario and a credible alternative, with brief narratives for each. Don't forget, however, with scenarios we're talking about possibilities, not probabilities. Use AI to help develop the initial outlines if useful, but own the framing and the assumptions. Third is to add a short learning review to regular performance meetings. Reserve a few minutes to ask, what assumptions last quarter proved to be wrong or incomplete, and what do we do with that learning? Capture it explicitly, potentially formally, if you think it's appropriate. 4. Use AI as a first-pass analyst, not as a decision maker. Ask it to summarize lengthy material, highlight anomalies, or generate alternative futures, but make it clear to your team that judgment remains a human responsibility. Over time, these steps embed systemic cognitive strategy practice into the normal operating rhythm of finance and strategy rather than treating it as a separate exercise. It becomes a system, and strategy becomes a part of everyone's everyday job. Time to wrap up. In this briefing, we have focused on how CFOs can think across past, present, and future in a structured way, rather than as separate, ad hoc conversations. Systemic cognitive strategy practice, supported by generative and agentic AI, provides a cognitive and analytical framework that underpins the rest of this series. In our next episode, a continuation of this one, we will look at how to manage bias and noise in decision-making and how cybernetic principles, such as Ashby's Law and the Viable Systems model, can help CFOs keep strategic decisions on track. In the third one, we will focus on uncertainty and scenarios and how to communicate ranges and options effectively with the board. Thank you for listening. Further resources are available at our website, csosandbox.com, smiknowledge.com, phsnl.com. I look forward to joining you next time. Thank you for listening.